Every day for 7 years in a small town where time seemed to slow down, a lone figure stood by the edge of a bus stop. Rain, snow, or blistering heat, it didn't matter. He came, sat quietly in the same exact spot, and stared into the distance with eyes full of memory. He wasn't a stray, he wasn't lost. He was waiting. Locals began to call him Sergeant, a large German shepherd with eyes that looked like they had seen war. Children would leave food. Some tried to pet him, others simply passed by, unsure of his story. But Sergeant never missed a single morning. He never chased cars. He never played with other dogs. He just waited. No leash, no owner, no change. People began to ask, who was he waiting for? And why here, in this exact place? What no one knew, not yet, was that Sergeant's loyalty ran deeper than anyone could imagine, and the heartbreaking reason behind his endless vigil would soon leave the entire world in tears. His name was Rex. Born from a long bloodline of working dogs, Rex was no ordinary pup. From the moment he opened his eyes, trainers could see something different. A sharp gaze, unwavering focus, and a calm discipline unusual even for his breed. By the age of 2, he was recruited into a special K9 unit of the military, trained to detect explosives, perform search and rescue, and most importantly, form an unbreakable bond with his handler. That handler was Sergeant David Morales, a soft-spoken man with steady hands and quiet strength. The two met during K9 training camp. At first, Rex was all business, obedient but distant. But David had a way of speaking that made even silence feel safe. Over time, something changed. Rex started responding not just to commands, but to emotions. A nod, a glance, a shift in breath. That was all it took. They became inseparable. Their missions were often dangerous, serving together in high-risk zones overseas. Rex would lead the way through collapsed buildings, tense standoffs, even bomb-suspected areas. And every time he returned to David's side like a shadow. To Rex, David wasn't just a partner. He was everything. Between missions, they shared quiet moments under open skies. David would talk to Rex like he was human, sharing stories from home, dreams, fears. Rex would listen, head tilted, eyes locked on his handler's face. No matter how far from home they were, they had each other. Then came their final mission, one that neither of them could have predicted would be the last. In a single moment, everything changed. And the bond they had built, so deep and pure, was put to the ultimate test. It was supposed to be a routine sweep. A call had come in about a possible improvised explosive device hidden near an old transit checkpoint just outside the base. David and Rex had done this dozens of times before. It was dangerous, yes, but it was familiar, predictable. Together they had cleared marketplaces, broken down vehicles, and buildings on the brink of collapse. This would be no different, or so they thought. As they approached the checkpoint, Rex immediately became alert. His body stiffened, nose twitching, ears forward. David tightened the leash and gave the signal. Rex moved forward, low and cautious, sniffing the ground with trained precision. And then he stopped. That's when everything went silent, a stillness that felt unnatural. David's instinct kicked in. He shouted Rex's name, calling him back. But it was too late. The explosion ripped through the air like a monstrous scream. Dust, metal, and fire erupted in a flash. Witnesses would later say it felt like the earth itself had cracked open. When the smoke cleared, David lay motionless beneath twisted debris, his uniform scorched, eyes closed. Rex miraculously had survived, dazed, bruised, and burned, but alive. Medics rushed in. The scene was chaos. Soldiers shouting, radios crackling, sirens wailing. But Rex refused to leave David's side. His body trembled, but he stood guard, nudging David gently with his nose, whining softly, as if trying to wake him up. He didn't understand that his partner, his best friend, was already gone. They tried to pull him away, but he resisted. They had to sedate him in the end. And as the helicopter took David's body back to base, Rex remained behind, alone, confused, and wounded in more ways than one. What followed would become the story of a lifetime. After David's death, Rex was officially retired from service. His injuries were treated, and the military offered him a comfortable place to live out the rest of his days. But something inside him had changed. He didn't eat much. He rarely barked. He didn't play. His eyes were always searching, as if expecting someone to walk through the door at any moment. He didn't know how to grieve like humans did. All he knew was that his person was gone, and the world suddenly felt wrong. A few weeks after his discharge, something unexpected happened. Rex escaped. One morning, the staff at the shelter found the gate ajar and his bed empty. Surveillance footage later showed him limping off into the early dawn, slow but determined, like he had somewhere very specific to be. That place turned out to be a small bus station on the outskirts of the city. No one could explain how he got there. It was miles away, but to Rex, it was the last place he'd seen David alive. The checkpoint had long been cleaned up, rebuilt into something unrecognizable. But Rex found the exact corner, the very spot where David had called his name just before the explosion. And he sat. People thought he'd move on after a few hours, but he didn't. He stayed. That day, and the next, and the one after that. He refused food at first, only accepting water. Locals took notice. Some tried to bring him home, but Rex always escaped and returned. It didn't matter how cold the nights were or how harsh the sun burned. Rex would come back, sit in that same spot, and stare down the road, waiting, hoping, unwilling to believe that David wouldn't return. 7 years passed. He never missed a day. At first, only a few locals noticed Rex, a quiet dog who showed up every morning like clockwork. Street vendors would leave scraps of food. Children passing by would wave at him. Some even nicknamed him the waiting dog. But most people didn't know his story. He was just there, like part of the scenery, silent, still, loyal. One rainy morning, a young woman named Eliza snapped a photo of Rex sitting at his usual spot, drenched and unmoving. She posted it online with a simple caption. "He's been waiting here every day for years. Does anyone know his story?" The post went viral overnight. Comments flooded in. People speculated everything from a lost owner to a tragic accident. News crews began to show up. Animal rescue organizations offered help. A local reporter aired a segment titled, "The Dog Who Waits," tugging at the hearts of thousands. Everyone wanted to know, who was he waiting for? And why hadn't they come back? Despite the attention, Rex remained unchanged. He didn't care about cameras or kind words. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon, like he was still listening for one familiar voice, one that hadn't called his name in a very, very long time. The viral post reached far beyond the town, across cities, across states. Among those who saw it was a man sitting alone in a quiet house, flipping through old photos. His name was Captain Miguel Torres, a retired officer who had once served in the same unit as Sergeant David Morales. The moment he saw the photo of Rex, something inside him froze. He knew that face. With trembling hands, Miguel contacted the local station that had aired the story. Within days, he arrived at the bus stop where Rex waited. The dog didn't react to the attention, as usual, but when Miguel knelt beside him and whispered, "You're still waiting, aren't you, boy?" Rex's ears perked up. His head tilted. There was recognition, but also a heaviness in his eyes. Miguel shared the truth with the reporters, the rescuers, the curious onlookers. Rex had been David's K-9 partner. That very bus station was once the military checkpoint where David lost his life. Rex had seen it all, the explosion, the chaos, the final moments of the man he loved most. And for 7 long years, he'd returned to that place, waiting for someone he already knew would never come back. Miguel took out a weathered letter David had once written, a letter he'd left with Miguel before their final deployment, just in case he didn't make it. In it, David had written, "If anything ever happens to me, take care of Rex. He's not just a dog, he's family." Miguel's voice broke as he read those words aloud, and for the first time in years, Rex did something no one had seen. He leaned in, closed his eyes, and let out a long, trembling sigh, as if he finally understood. David wasn't coming home. After that day, Rex didn't return to the bus stop. Captain Miguel took him home. Not to a shelter, not to a kennel, but to a quiet farmhouse where Rex could rest, surrounded by fields and the sound of wind through the trees. At first, Rex wandered the property restlessly, still listening, still searching, but slowly something shifted. He began to sleep through the night. He ate his meals without hesitation. And sometimes, when the sun dipped low, he'd sit at the edge of the porch watching the horizon, but this time, with peace in his eyes. 1 year later, a small ceremony was held at the base where David and Rex once served. A memorial plaque was unveiled in honor of Rex, a soldier, a friend, a symbol of undying loyalty. Rex passed away quietly a few months later, lying beneath the same sky where he and David once trained. He was buried beside the memorial with full honors. People still visit the spot, some leave flowers, others simply stand in silence. But everyone who hears the story walks away with the same realization. Sometimes love doesn't ask for answers. It just waits and never forgets.